going on, folks? My name's Matthew, aka EZBOT. We're back with another live stream. That's 2 times this week, which is awesome, which is hopefully what I can continue to do every week. This is what I want to do. I wish I could do this 5 days a week. Today we're going to check out the Stylophone modules. And you may not know this. You may not know that Stylophone has Eurorack modules because initially I didn't either. Let me just point them out really quick and then I'll just do a short little story time. These are the Stylophone Eurorack modules. Okay, they're 42 HP. They're packed with stuff, as you can see. I'll zoom in on the camera a little bit, or I'll have the camera zoom in a second, and I'll kind of point some stuff out about what's cool about it. And we have a dual drone oscillator here. We have a dual filter here. They have envelope generators, effects. They don't have MIDI, but you don't need it because it's Eurorack. And they even have little speakers because originally, or their initial concept, I guess, are these little standalone units. So we'll dive into like what's in here a little bit further. We're not going to do this crazy, like, this isn't a review, so to speak. This is more like me exploring an idea. So let me tell you a little bit about a little quick story time here. So I got an email from Stylophone and they were like, hey, would you want to check out our filter module? And I was like, maybe. And I took a look at it and I was like, there was a lot of features on it. And the filter module on it, I believe, is a filter used in like the Prophet 5 and a bunch of other classic synthesizers. The 3340, or I'm sorry, that's the chip. That's oscillator chip that's used in it. The filter is a recreation, 2 different filter recreation. One of them is a classic filter recreation that's in like the Korg monopoly and stuff like that. I think the low pass filter, and then they have their own proprietary filter in there too. So they have some cool stuff. With lots of features, but they reach out to me and they're like, would you want to check this out? And typically I'm not very interested in little desktop stuff like that, personally, for myself, for my own personal workflow. And so I was kind of just like, yeah, maybe, I might be interested in checking that out. They're not paying me to do this at all. They just offered to send these units over. I've worked with Stylophone stuff a million times. I worked in a synthesizer store for quite some time, and Stylophone was all over the place. It was a great gift to give to people. Get them interested in synthesizers. Cool stuff. You play with the little Stylophone, make some cool sounds. They're fun. It's a cool brand. They're a lot of fun, and they're kind of an intro synth. These are not their intro synthesizers. These aren't their intro concepts. These are definitely their more professional grade stuff, and we'll get into more why that's true. But so initially I'm like, oh, small boxes that sit on your desktop. I'm like, it's just, I have only so much desktop space. I'm like, will I use it all the time? It has to be stuff that I would use all the time for me to want to put something on the desktop. Now, things that go in Eurorack, they don't always get used all the time. Eurorack stuff, you kind of switch in and out because it goes into the case, comes out of the case. And I discovered, I didn't realize this at first, that they were Eurorack compatible. Kind of like the Moog Mavis, where I was like, Moog Mavis sounds good, it's cool, but do I want a little desktop unit? Eurorack compatible, I want it. That sounds awesome. I can pair it and come up with all these cool ideas. And I did exactly that with the Stylophone stuff. So as soon as I discovered they were Eurorack modules, I immediately had this idea. And I was like, well, they have a lot of features. They do take up quite a bit of HP, but they're so feature packed. There's like so many modules built into the modules themselves. And they're so affordable for what they offer. And they're actually really well built. I was incredibly surprised at the build quality. I was like, for the price. Anyway, like I said, this isn't sponsored or anything. I'm literally just telling you my personal experience right now because I love the idea of feature-packed Eurorack modules. I'm not somebody who picks up this oscillator and pairs it with this filter and I kind of build my own synth voice. That's not me. That's cool. I love doing that. I've gone through that experience in my life in my Eurorack stuff, and I've done that. And I don't really want to do it anymore. I like it when stuff has a lot of features built into a single module, and usually they're really expensive. So the more features that you build into it, the more analog components you put into it, the bigger it's going to get, and the more expensive it's going to get. Stylophone somehow mitigated all of that. It is a little larger, but that's because it's analog and so many features in it. But they somehow were able to keep the price down low. And I think they're like $299 or $279 for each module, which is crazy because you can buy a VCA for $299. Just the VCA that's analog in Eurorack. And just be like, all right, that's $299. That's fair. Not in this case. We have VCAs all over the place here. envelope generators, multiple types of filters, tons of oscillator shapes, modulation, semi-modular, so it's normal. Anyway, I was blown away by how much they were able to fit into it with the price. And that's kind of what I suddenly was like, this is a cool idea to explore. This is a good topic for a live stream, for us to check this out, listen to it. How does it sound? What could you do with it? And that's what we're going to explore today. Different ideas of how you would approach using these two particular modules in your Eurorack format, paired maybe with external stuff. I am pairing it with my Electron gear. Specifically, my Dig Attack is doing percussion. So I'm not using anything but these modules and the Hermod Plus and the expander, if I do end up using any of the modulation from the expander during this live stream. So let's get back over to it here. Okay. So as I said, there's a Dig Attack off on the side. We can't fit everything under the camera because that's just impossible, right? It's just, we wouldn't be able to see anything that's going on. We have the CPM DS2. This is originally a drone synthesizer. This came out earlier this year, like early in the year, maybe around January. And I believe. And then this just came out recently, the CPM DF8. This is a dual filter, so a stereo filter if you want it to be. And it's full of, it has envelope generators and VCA, the whole kit and caboodle, all in here. Dual filter with envelope generators and VCA, and the envelope generators work really well. They sound really nice. You heard it right in the intro. Let's hear it again really quick. So this is one of the oscillators coming from this module into this module here. And I'm just treating this like you would a classic synthesizer. I'm building two synthesizers with these two modules. So two full-on synths that I can do whatever I want with it. They have LFOs, dual LFO with multiple destinations. We have envelope generators over here that you can send to different places. Plus we have places to patch. And it sounds pretty slick. Everything analog except for the built-in effects, which we're actually not using right now because we are skipping their mixer section and going straight into the blue box as its mixer, because this is what you would do in this circumstance. But let's just have a listen to this. This is just one of the voices. And there's got some effects coming on here. It's being sidechained in my Dig Attack because that's what I like to do. That sounds awesome. Let's try and bring the envelope size down a little bit. I'll take some of these effects away really quick so you can just hear the module. I mean, it sounds as good as my Mavis does. Honestly, I'm impressed. So kind of what I want to do today, and maybe this will be a bit of a time suck for me to do this, and it just is what it is with Eurorack. Eurorack is not fast. Going through different ideas in Eurorack, not fast, okay? Eurorack is also not affordable, typically. This is using up a lot of HP, so, you know, that might change how you feel about it being affordable, because you might want to be like, well, I want to fit more modules in there, so it's not affording me HP. But with what you get, let's just look at this, how they're compartmentalized and how they're doing this, and talk about this, because it doesn't have to just be a conversation about these particular modules, even though that is what we're doing, and this is what we're talking about is these modules. But let's just talk about it as a whole. Let's talk about Eurorack as a whole and what the difference is between getting like buying an individual module versus buying a larger module that has multiple ideas and multiple identities within these modules. Because they don't just identify as a drone synth, which is what this says it is. It's not. It's more than that. It's a dual LFO. It's an oscillator, another with and you can interpolate between shapes on the oscillator. It has sub-oscillators. It has hard sync between the two oscillators, which is something you would typically have to patch, but it's pre-normaled. It has pitch sync, so you can have one control the pitch. I actually haven't explored how the pitch sync really functions, so maybe we'll avoid that for now, but the hard sync sounds awesome and sounds fantastic for techno. Really, really good for techno. And then it has over here a mixer section with effects and a little speaker, which I'm not going to use, of course, because that's the classic Stylophone thing. They got to have a speaker in there so you can use it on your desktop and play with it, right? Because they're just keeping that thing alive. That's cool. It sounds fine. It's fun to explore. if you just wanted to not plug it into your speaker system. Of course I want to, because my speakers sound great. And so you can see that there's easily 4 modules here, $299. Analog oscillator, same oscillator chip that's in classic polysynths, right? So you know it's good. Oscillators are just their chips, really. And that's what we have here. So 2 of those identical, pre-patched. Then we have an effects section, which these are classic vintage analogs, classic vintage, not analog, classic vintage effects over here, which I was surprised to learn. I didn't know. Bunch of different reverbs, and then there's a delay in there. And it sounds fine. We're not gonna be able to hear it right now because of the way I have things patched. We're completely skipping this section and going here. And then over here we have a dual envelope generator, analog envelope generator, as far as I know. If I'm wrong, correct me. And then over here we have a filter with a VCA and the CV points for you to, skip over this stuff and patch it yourself with another envelope generator if you want, if you don't want to use these ones, but nothing wrong with using these ones in my opinion. You can trigger your synth with these buttons, which I love. This one's muted, so that's why it didn't make sound. I like this idea because I can tune my oscillator this way just by pinging it with my finger, as opposed to having to ping it over here. I mean, whatever. But I like that idea. Big old filter knob, fantastic. Again, another mixer section, headphone output, a main output. But there's even more. Sample and hold output for modulating things and doing some other internal patching. Cool stuff, okay? I mean, it's not the newest idea or anything like that. What they did is they put a lot of stuff in a very easily identifiable section, and it sounds good. It's analog synthesizers. What could go wrong, right? It's just a good idea. And so after I noticed this stuff, I looked at the modules and realized that what they had packed into them, I was like, I think that this is worth showing off to people. Because not only is today's day and age with Eurorack and everything else that's going on in the world, people are feeling a little strapped for cash in general, but they don't not want to make music and they don't not want to get new Eurorack modules. This happens to be a really good option currently if you want something analog to play with. Now, the only thing I would say, like if we were going to do let's keep things honest here. One of the things I would complain about is that there isn't a fine-tune pot on here. And I think a fine-tuned pot is really helpful. So you do use the large knob to control the pitch. And that can be a little frustrating at times when you're trying to dial things in. And also, one of the cons of any analog module is that it's analog. While that is usually a really pro feature in anything, like usually people are like, it's analog, that's really important to me. Yet there's an advantage to things being digital. So let's talk about that for 1 second. The advantage of things being digital is, for one, your waveform choices are pretty much unlimited. Although it is limited to the CPU, like how well it's going to interpolate between waveforms, how well did they deal with pitch tracking and, implementing the Nyquist theorem and all that kind of stuff. In the analog realm, what you worry about is pitch tracking even more so, and how well does it pitch track at certain voltage ranges, and how easy is it for it to stay in tune? Will it go out of tune and drift and stuff like that? So that is one of the classic problems you run into with analog oscillators. And of course, you're going to run into that here because it is fully analog. So that's just, that's a thing about any analog versus digital module. So one of the ideas that I thought was interesting, the Moog Mavis is about the same price. Yes, JFG. Same price as one of these. 2 of these would be the price of 2 Moog Mavises, but of course you get, the Moog Mavis is hardwired in a different way. It's also a completely different synthesizer. It has a different option. It has a wavefolder. We have interpolating waveforms here. We don't have wavefolding, but this actually has, these 2 together is far more feature-packed than the Moog Mavis. The Moog Mavis sounds really good. I love that thing. And I think it's totally fair to compare that to this. But these are not that. They're completely different. So I had a couple of different ideas of how would you approach this in a Eurorack setup? And right now we're approaching it in that I have 2 different two different full synth voices. So if I go to track 1 on my Hermod Plus over here, we have synth voice 1, which really long release time. Let's turn that down. Some attack, and it sounds good. Could use a different filter. Filter sounds great. Could throw some effects on that. Sounds fantastic, honestly. And then if I go to track 2, we have another full analog synth voice. Again, this would cost you a lot of money. To fill up this row would be extremely expensive for 2 analog full synth voices. We got sub oscillators over here. No sub. I do have an LFO going to it, doing a little vibrato here. So if we go up in pitch. The filter chip that they have in the low pass filter kind of sounds a little Moogish to me. And what really kind of is a tell for that is it's not a ladder filter as far as I know, is that you do lose a little bit of volume with resonance. Not all filters do that. A lot of filters don't lose volume with resonance, they just get really loud, right? Because you're doing an emphasis at the cutoff point, and depending on what frequency band you're in with the pitch that you're choosing, you may have a really strong emphasis and it may like clip your inputs or whatever. That can happen. But that's not the case here. It does remove some of the volume the more resonance you give it. So you can see it gets really quiet. I believe they can self-oscillate if you want to get a sine wave from your filters. You totally can, but I liked this idea. I don't know if they're tuned, these tracks are tuned together any longer because I've been playing with this, but I liked the idea that I had 2 full analog synth voices right here, plus I still have a bunch of CV for me to control other modules. I paired it with the Digitact out of convenience, otherwise I would use my WMD drums over here. But we're going to be doing a WMD drum stream on Tuesday, so you can look forward to that too, if this is the kind of thing you're interested in. As you can tell, we're playing with a lot more Eurorack on the channel lately, because I've been, you ebb and flow over your interests musically, especially in the hardware realm, and I'm always going to love using my favorite stuff that I have. Right now I'm finding interest in stuff that I hadn't before, like it's new, the interest is returning to stuff that I wasn't interested in, or new interest is coming to stuff that I wasn't interested in. So I've been playing with my OPXY more, despite my frustrations with that device. It's so lovely to play with. And I haven't been playing with my M8 as much, despite it being like maybe my favorite thing that I own, besides my Octatrack. And anyway, that's just a little insight into what's happening in my own brain. So there's a whole bunch of different configurations that you could do here. And this is what I think is fun to explore, this idea, before we like zoom in and maybe completely pull all these patch cables out and then patch them back in here and just listen to them without any sequencer at all and no clocking, maybe just in the drone experience, and maybe leave that still sidechained into the Digitact. And how would that be? Would that be really techno or something? I think it would. But so here's a couple different ideas for you to think about what you could do with these 2 modules that have just come across my mind. Here's the first idea. We're already looking at it. The first idea is to use your dual LFO, your dual envelope generator, your dual filters, your dual oscillators, and to make 2 analog synth voices. We've already heard how that sounds. It sounds rad. So it totally works. I mean, it sounds really good. Okay, so we have that idea. Totally works. I love that idea. The second idea requires me to unpatch things. And so here's the other idea before I actually unpatch it. The other idea is that you keep one of these setups patched. So you take your drone oscillator, your whatever, they call it drone 1, drone 2. It's just oscillator 1, oscillator 2, truly. We take oscillator 1, we patch that into filter 1, and we leave oscillator 2 patched in here, but we do not send CV over to it. We do not control it at all. We actually, instead of taking our output from here, maybe we take the output from the actual main outs, and maybe take the output here from the actual main outs. And you use one as an actual controllable, simple, classic synth voice, and the other one as a drone. And you actually manually play with the pitch and do all of that, and you get this dual experience of one, we have this very controlled bassline synth, and this other one where you have this out of control, wild drone experience, which I absolutely love the whole drone experience. I think that's a cool idea to explore, and just one of the multiple configurations that you can do with this. And I guess the third idea, and I think there's really truly only three that I could come up with that's really usable in a Eurorack live performance experience, and that's kind of like our focus here on this channel, would be to just unpatch it from like being sequenced at all, and to use it as a full-on dual oscillator drone. And I think that's cool too. And one of the things that's really interesting, even about this setup, is that there's actually filters in this module already. So we have filters here, and we have a filter here. So technically, check this out. We can go over here and play with this filter. And so now we have a dual filter. This is a 3320 filter. And we have a filter here. And you can get some really interesting stuff. Dual filters in serial is a really cool experience. So we're just playing with these filters. This one also can do a high pass too. Listen to that, just some real nice emphasis on the low end. Here you get some like clean minimal sounds. Could go to track 1. Yeah, track 1 and clear that out. And then we'll unmute this and kind of give it some real effects. I have right now a scale on it. I kind of want to like just turn off the scale. I don't know how to mute scales, so I'm just gonna delete it, I suppose. Honestly, I'm already having a really nice experience here. And this is where I can kind of improv with this dual analog idea. Like I said, I'm completely skipping over their mixer effects section and using my effects. And honestly, I would want to use my effects. That's like the best part of Eurorack is effects. It's cool that they have them. It's a great feature. Do I need them? Not really. But is it cool that they have them? Yes. And do they sound good? Honestly, they do. Especially the delays. Now this is kind of doing a chromatic thing. Again, dual filters. Pretty cool experience. I wish you could see the dig attack too, so I can go through this whole experience. Do we have filters on here? Not happening at the moment. Got it. I'd kind of wish that was a clap. Change the waveform. Right now we're in a square. It interpolates between a square and a sawtooth. And you can modulate it. Has pulse width modulation too, which I was very surprised about. Built into the module. Like, you don't have to patch it, but you can. Well, waveform you can modulate. You do have to patch the pulse width modulation. Again, dual filters. So we can get weird with this. 2 different filter types. Sounds dope. Resonance on here too. You know what I really love? I don't know about you, but you know what I really love is, for one, when you start discovering cool stuff about things you didn't know existed, or different ideas and different workflows, they kind of just like appear as you're messing with them. That's kind of been my experience with playing with these 2 modules so far, where I was like, you know, what do I want to do with these? And as I'm tinkering and realizing that I have 2 filters, and then I have the 2 oscillators, and then I had the pulse width modulation, which like I didn't realize at first that it even existed despite looking at the module, because there's so much on the module, is like trying to find these workflows and then realizing how deep the workflow goes, and just pairing my Digitact with my Hermod over here. I'm not even using much of the modulation. With these 2 modules, I realized like I have a ton of stuff in here. And on the top of my rack, I don't know if you paid attention to what we got going on here, but over here we have 2 monomatics. So I have 2 polysynths, 2 8-voice polysynths, another sequencer, Arcan for sidechain ducking within my Eurorack system, a full set of drums, and I want to add more drums here if I can. Full set of drums over here, kick, hat, clap. Mixer, another dual VCA with 0 crossing detection, an effects aid for getting really interesting effects, which I do want to pair with this. Run one of these in here and mess with these effects, because the effects over here I can get are just crazy. Effects aids are dope. And then I have a massive modulation section. We got tons and tons. We have arpeggios. We should do an arpeggio, honestly, to listen to what this sounds like with an arpeggio is probably a pretty good time. And yeah, I really do. I want to do that. I think we might jump over to arpeggiate before I unpatch anything, or if we even unpatch anything. And I think that the demonstration with these 2 already is honestly of value, in my opinion. This is how I would want this to function, even though I do think the drone idea is, but I couldn't sacrifice this much HP personally in my Eurorack system just for drones for my music, because I don't do that much droning. But I think a noise artist would be happy to just let go of this much HP and use the remaining 84 2 sections that we have over here. And somebody wanted to know what this Eurorack case is. This is the ALM 9U84 case. It's actually very affordable. I do have some gripes with it, to be honest. There is a bar underneath here that kind of holds it together, and it sticks up this little section. It makes it so you can't fit deep modules in the middle. And then the power section over here, you also cannot fit deep modules in. So it's very particular. Any sort of module that's using a daisy chip will fit on the power section and will definitely fit in the middle row. It's fine in the middle row. Over in this corner section, really you have to have a shallow module to stick it over here. That's just a quick review of this 84 HP. The build is just fine. The power is fine. The power seems clean enough for me. And I think it does the trick. I like it because of its size. I think 9U84 is a really nice sweet spot. I do think I would like to get a 62 7U would be dope. Like the black hole cases would be cool to play with, but wouldn't be able to do this particular setup. Yeah, so now what I want to do is I want to hear what it sounds like to use these cool analog modules with an arpeggio on them. So we have to program that up, and I need to set that up on the Hermod really quick. It's actually a really fast experience. We'll just do it with the bass synthesizer side, right? We have the lead side with the 2 filters. So sick to have 2 filters. Could even run an LFO over to it. Let's go into the waveform. Let's do it to the pitch. Pretty sweet sounding. That's because of the dual filters. I'm using quite a bit of resonance on filter 1 in the oscillator module as its own filters. I keep forgetting to mention that when I'm talking about how many features there is that the oscillator goes through a 3320 filter here and then runs into another set of filters over here. It's bananas. Pitch tracking is pretty good. Cute little riff for a section. Like I could totally play a show with this. This is a randomly generated bass line that I have in E minor, and then I set like a section in my Hermod Plus to only randomly generate within this very usable bassline synthesizer note section, right? So like C3 up to C5. And also made it so it would randomly choose between like 16th notes and half notes. So I get these longer bass portions, then sidechaining that so that it sounds very musical. And it's turned out really great. All right, now it's time to arpeggiate. We're gonna go to track 2, which is where I have my bass line. And we could actually use the arpeggiator without even using the sequencer just to hear what it sounds like. Let's add arpeggio. Oh, it's the first one. Doi. Yeah, that stuff seems fine. And does my arpeggio have to be before my scale? Is there a move? Let's go like this. Copy effect. Oops. Paste effect, and we'll go delete effect, and we'll go like this, copy effect, and move it here. Oops. Paste effect, and we'll delete this one. And then let's make sure I haven't done anything weird. Not even sending gates. Did I mute my track? No. Oh, because it requires a clock, I think, for the arpeggio. That's right. That's kind of cool. kind of want to take the scale off entirely. Maybe we'll just copy it. I'm going to delete it for now, because I want to hear this a little bit different options. I like that bass line, but now I'm going to have to let it go. See you later. Sick. Cool. That was a fun little just jam exercise, and I feel like I'm continuing to prove my hypothesis. And again, this is kind of what this stream was all about, and honestly, kind of what this channel is all about to me, and what I want the experience to be like for this channel. I don't like to do reviews very much. I also really don't like doing gear launch videos very much. I don't like doing that stuff on this channel. I really like exploring workflow. That is what's fun to me. What are these systems that we can build, these different ideas? How can we make things fun, playable, usable, and what gear makes sense to actually use for not only music production at home, but for a live performance? Because that's what entertains me the most is jamming live, whether it be in front of people or for myself. And I feel like when I accept a gift from somebody, like music gear gifts, I want them to be cool, not just for the channel or for viewers, but for me. If I don't really enjoy the process of working on them, I don't want them in my studio. I don't want to use them. And I'm very fortunate that I actually like this and I like what I'm doing right now. And I think that's really important, is to like actually enjoy the process. Enjoy the process of discovering workflows. And it's not that exactly that it matters so much that that these modules are affordable or even sound good. What I think is really fun about these modules is the fact that you get so many ideas available to you. And that's something I really like to explore. There's multiple ideas in here. There's using a filter into another filter already patched for you, very easy. That's an idea. We have oscillators with effects on the outputs. That's an idea. I can run an oscillator into an effect, into a filter, into an effect with its own envelope generator, and use an oscillator pre-effect very easily into a filter with an envelope generator. That is a weirder, different idea that people don't usually approach. The common approach in Eurorack or in any synthesizer is that you go oscillator, filter, envelope, amplifier with an envelope generator into a mixer section, out into the world, and use a sequencer to run and program the notes that it plays. You don't have to do that. You can actually not do that and have a really great time here because it has all the functionality in it to do the drone experience. But you could also do that, but run a reverb into your oscillator first. Go oscillator reverb, then do that. And so a part of your envelope generator experience or the plucks and stuff that you make could actually be pre-reverbed or pre-delayed. And that's a weirder, different idea and something you really only experience in Eurorack. Because the experience of Eurorack is that you get to be weird. Because in a polysynth, in a desktop synth, even semi-modular stuff, polyphonic desktop, whatever, doesn't matter. There's there's limitations around things that keep you in the pocket of like fun exploration so that you're not just making weird stuff. In Eurorack, like true Eurorack, where you have all these other modules to patch in with it, not that you can't do that with semi-modular, but like because it's in the case and you have your mind changes how you approach Eurorack when things are in the case. I'm not wrong about that. I know everybody feels this way about Eurorack. We like to put things within the boundaries of our case and then work within those boundaries as opposed to like having like a zillion pods surrounding your Eurorack case and a bunch of patch cables and just getting lost in that experience where you're like, I'm doing this over here, but I'm barely using any of its functionality. Really, it's not doing that much. Once you put it in the case, you start really digging in and finding the nooks and crannies of the system that you compiled yourself. This is my synthesizer. And eventually, I would say this is my groove box for today, right? Like I built this groove box and I love that experience. Fortunately, this has all these different oscillator types and little modules built into it to make that really easy for me. And I really like that. There are other modules in this case that do similar stuff, like the Monumatic, for instance. It can be a monosynth with a sub-oscillator at different filters and it uses MIDI, and it has reverb, and it has chorus, and it has all sorts of stuff, and I can come up with all these cool ideas. I can make dub techno with it, or I can have it be my main bass synthesizer. I love that. My Blue Box, it can be an effects processor because it has cool effects, has EQs per channel, it has compressors, it has reverb and delay, it has the ability to do send effects, and it can also be my recorder for my entire performance. So I can make stems on here that I later process in my DAW, which is Bitwig. That's my favorite DAW. The Hermod doesn't necessarily have to be just a sequencer. It can actually be a MIDI to CV processor deeply and extensively across the board. So I personally, this is my own personal thing, I personally like to pick modules that allow me to come up with a lot of different ideas in my Eurorack format. That's what I like to do. I don't like it when they don't have that many options because I get this kind of paralysis. It's a different kind of option paralysis. I could use this module, or I could use this module, or I could use this module. I guess it's option paralysis, but it has to do with people who have already accumulated too much Eurorack. So when it takes up a lot of space, it actually helps me out. It puts a wall around it, and that's why I kind of gravitate towards larger Eurorack modules personally, which was a conclusion that I came to like years into working at the Eurorack shop, where I realized that I don't really want small modules. I prefer larger modules with multi-functions to limit what happens to me. It's the same kind of paralysis that happens when I'm in my DAW. I want to have a little bit of guardrails to keep me from exploring sounds for too long and like kind of committing to a sound. And I think it's helpful to get larger modules, kind of like they kind of do that for you. But it also does give you all the creativity of the different workflows. So now that we've kind of explored what this sounds like as a classic synth, like sounds great, works great. We have lots of features and we're utilizing most of them. We could kind of conclude this concept, or before we do that, actually, I'll jump over to the chat, but we can kind of conclude this concept by unpatching this. Maybe we could patch it into this cool sequencer that I have here that I did a stream on recently, the Pseudos, which I really like for getting like really cool melodic stuff. We could take that, patch that out, and run that. Well, we don't have much for effects, but we could actually run that into here and just soak it in reverb and delay. Maybe that's an idea. I do want to hear how it sounds droning and kind of listen to like all the weird stuff that we could get from it. Before we do that, let me jump over and actually read the chat so we can see what's going on. Also, happy Saturday, folks. I love streaming on Saturdays. Saturdays they're just the best day. Kiki, what's going on? Kroglon, hello. Adrock. I didn't know affordable and Eurorack could be in the same sentence. I think I read that earlier, but yeah, absolutely. The Lemonade Maker, what's up, dude? Life without her. Is this the ALM case? It sure is. Moog Mavis is about the same price. We did talk about that for a second. Is 5,000 to 6,000 considered affordable these days? That's the minimum cost for what's in this case. Easily. In this particular case, because this center section, this is actually a cool. So like we're talking about affordability right now, which is a really, really big topic in politics, but it's also a big topic in Eurorack. But we can kind of combine the two right now. So we're talking about affordability. It's actually less than $4,000 or $5,000, I think. Maybe it is still around 4, but I don't think it's above 4 for this because this is taking up so much HP for $600. So 600 is taking up, or under 600, is taking up a large portion of this case. But typically, this would be like oscillator 1. This would be 2 to 300, 2 to 300, an LFO with multiple shapes and multiple outputs. So dual LFO with multiple shapes and outputs. This would be another 150. And then the effects and mixer section, this would easily be another like 150. That's what we're looking at just over here, right? So this would be roughly $700 for this. Over here, a dual analog filter section with multiple filter types, as well as 2 envelope generators and a mixer section with outputs. We're looking at another close to $1,000. So we're looking at around $2,000, roughly $1,500 in Eurorack, crammed into 600. This is where I think the affordability idea comes into play. That's why I think that's cool. And that's what caught my attention. Because I was like, this is a cool idea. The idea that multiple people could jump on this idea of using this in Eurorack. Personally, the desktop drone idea, or the drone, like having these 2 units in their own, they come with cases. Like they come in the case. I'd take it out of the case, put it in the Eurorack. Cases that you can power. I don't want to do that. That's not something that interests me or intrigues me even a little bit. I don't really like that idea. I think a lot of people would like that idea. It's not for me. I want to put things in my Eurorack case. So to me, this is a really sweet deal in Eurorack. As a desktop unit, to me, it's not what I want to do. But this works out really well, and I think is honestly pretty darn affordable. Just got to use Mavis and it's so much fun. Yeah, the Mavis is absolutely awesome. Definitely different than these two. I think that there's a lot more you can do here, and you can get a lot more experimental with the sounds that you get here. You can get to the noise zone. Right now, we've been in this very clean, classic, just what analog oscillator, analog filter zone, analog VCA stuff. I think they're analog VCAs, I'm assuming. But the Mavis is also similar in that territory, but this can get further away than the Mavis ever could into sound design. The Mavis is not a sound design tool. It's just a thing. You can add a scale filter in the effects on the Hermod. Yes, that's what we're doing. What's up, Bauktop? How's it going? Nice rig, missing labels. Thank you. Getting funky. Appreciate this. Thanks, James. Rustic, what's up, fam? How are the effects? Can you use them with the external inputs? Yes, you can. You can process things through the effects section, I believe. We're going to unpatch this in a second and play with the drone side, and then we'll kind of conclude the experiment from there. Because right now I think that my hypothesis has been totally proven that this is actually a really good workflow for doing a dual analog oscillator section with a full synth voice, a full 2 synth voices in one section. That's what we have here. And yeah, I believe that we've completely proven the science on that. Is the blue box in the black panel? It is. That is the blue box with the black panel. I think it looks dope. It would be cool if this was black. That would fix this, right? Right now, this would be really cool. And if the case was black, that'd be extra cool. HiVot2 made it to a live stream. Heck yeah, dude. I'm incorporating Electron into my setup thanks to EZBOT. What's up, Tactical MIDI? Nice to hear that. Quasar, what's up, dude? I usually put the scale at the very end. Interesting. I need to dive further into some of the effects on the Hermod because I'm not doing that a ton. Usually, I typically use it as a pretty standard sequencer. My favorite Eurorack sequencer continues to be, I love the sequencer. It's more powerful, which is why it stays in my case. It has been in the case now for a couple of months. The sequencer that it like was so obvious and works so well for my brain right off the bat, despite this being very similar to an Electron workflow, is the NerdSeek. The NerdSeek is a sequencer that just like, I keep it around because I always want to put it back in the case. But this is it has so many more classic features that are easy to jump into, where the NerdSeek requires you to really dive into the tracker realm. And sometimes that can be a bit overwhelming to explore new ideas in the tracker realm in Eurorack particularly. The middle section of the case is full of unfamiliar. The Octatrack, serious persistence. It will never go away. The Octatrack is beautiful. They sound great. Yeah, I think so too. Thanks for subscribing, Litwiller. I'm still using the MPC as my main, but the Analog Rhythm Mark II, bass. Absolutely, yeah. Bass on the Analog Rhythm is super dope. Thinking of shrinking down the setup because of the analysis paralysis. That's kind of what we're talking about, what we're talking about, that analysis paralysis. You can have a little bit less of it here. Affordability versus Eurorack, like oil and water. Absolutely. Like you're not wrong. We're still talking $600, but we're comparing features and analog features plus analog to price point. And this smokes most setups in that particular quadrant of analysis. The example you mentioned of putting an oscillator through a reverb and then into an envelope really weakened my Eurorack resistance. Well, I think that's a really interesting idea, right? I never know how to say your name. Botop. I don't know. I'm sorry. I wish somebody would tell me how to say it. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting concept. We're not doing it right now because of the way I have things patched, but I guess we can unpatch now. I think we're done with this idea and we can move forward. So let's just go ahead and take this patch off. Get all this stuff out of here and we'll kind of just do the classic patch. I guess I didn't need to take it out of there, but this won't take very long for me to repatch since it's going to be such a simple idea and everything is already normaled. Oh, I do want those. Pardon the little noises you're going to hear as I'm doing this. Okay. We got our mixer still patched. And here's what they look like unpatched. Very pretty, very cool looking. Metal panel. Impressive for the price. I thought it would be plastic, considering how much it costs. So I'm actually just going to take this main out. There's a headphone jack output, and I'm just going to run this into the main in. Or I guess we have to go into each one. I guess that's the way to do it. There's a sync in, which is cool. I didn't really pay attention to that one. We'll use the main out and we'll go into our filters audio in. And then why not dual filter it? These are my patch cables, by the way. I designed these. They're as thin as possible as they can get and they glow in the dark. This glows green. This glows blue in the dark, which is cool. You do want to use, a UV light to really take advantage of that. Take this filter out and patch it into this filter in, so we get dual filters, but we're actually going to have quad filters because we have two filters over here, two filters over here, We have the effects section, and now we can take this main output. We have it in mono mode instead of stereo mode, but we could do stereo, but I don't have a splitter. And run this here. And now I think that, well, I figured it would just, I need to have the VCA turned off because it's in envelope mode now. Let me see. There we go. Drone. Yes. You know what I forgot to do while we had it all patched up, and I kind of wish I had, was doing the hard sync, because oh my god, the bass lines I was getting with hard sync, with the dual oscillators running into the filter was so sick sounding. Yes. So now we have effects on both these sections because we're using the main out here and the main out here. So let's turn off these effects. So this is pre-filter. Let me mute these drums really quick. These effects are pre-filter right now. Running into these two filters, and the filters are in serial. So we could go like low pass. Into this notch. Hard sync. Okay. That's kind of cool. We got noise too. Let's have the LFOs modulate the waveform. That's it going through the hard sync. Wait a second, where'd that go? Now I gotta find my little... Hold on a sec. Rebuilding this. Yeah. Got cutoff blinking. Envelope blinking too. Lost my sidechain doing this. Oh yeah, that sounds sick right there. See if we can get a modulator on that. It already has pitch modulation, but get another modulator going. Set up my sidechain compressor. Compressor routing. Yeah. Get that pulse width modulation going. Where are all my tiny patch cables? Ooh. There's like something in there I really like. What is going on? I love it. that's where it was. Whoa. It's kind of like a Lyra experience. That's pretty sick. We got some of that sub in there. Crank up the overdrive on this whole setup. That was sick. Definitely need a different kick. Some pretty good sounds come from here. I feel like we want to modulate this cutoff with this LFO. I need an attenuator. Or do I? Yeah. That's pretty dope. You know what we can do, actually, is modulate it here. That's actually going to be clocked via my dig attack. Sick. That's actually total fire. We're using their effects in these modules too. I feel like I'm trying to make this. Pretty cool. Let me zoom in on these really quick so you can just see what's on these panels better. All right, there you go. So this is what we were working with. 2 drone oscillators. There's just 2 oscillators, but they're calling them drone 1, drone 2 because it's a drone synth over here. Ultra LFO. I don't know why it's called Ultra LFO, but it's a dual LFO with some normal destinations, and then we have 2 analog filters, 2 envelope generators, a bunch of CV inputs. Send things over to the VCA or don't send them to the VCA. We turn the VCAs off. We're just letting it pass through so it could drone with this, and then we're sidechaining this output in the dig attack, so we could get this. We're doing serial filters. This filter into this filter into these effects out, pre-effects, and then using these LFOs to modulate some stuff. Audio rate LFO. Freaking enormous sounds. That bass. Let's do this. What the heck? Here we go. I wish I had one of my performance samples on my Octave track loaded. I don't. So I can't use any of my filtering that I like to do. But still sounds awesome. That's actually really cool sounding. fun. Honestly, a lot of fun. Exploring these two in a Eurorack format. I don't even have all my effects loaded in this rack, but just running it into the sidechain ducking with the dig attack, like, it just instant, like, Lyra type experience, exploration, multiple filters, different combos. We could have just gone, like, each one into its own filter and not done the serial path, but we did the serial path in this format. So I got a filter here, a filter here, a filter here, a filter here. So many filters, 2 oscillators, LFO that goes into audio rate, filters that go into audio rate. I mean, just a massive amount of exploration. And honestly, I am impressed with the modules. They sound fantastic. As you heard, it's a hard one for me to kind of decide between how I would use it. Would I use it as a drone, or would I use it as what we did in the very beginning, which was like classic synth stuff where you could explore one with the keyboard while also plucking another one doing bass, because it does bass really well. Honestly, it does the bass lines very, very well when you use both oscillators and do hard sync. And that just, honestly, is probably the best sounds I got from it. They're incredibly techno-sounding bass lines. And I don't want to, take a while for me to repatch and get that all going. So then we're not going to be able to explore that any further during the stream. But I feel like I got to cover quite a bit of territory. There's so many different filter options on these modules. It's really crazy, the amount of filtering that you can do. And filters are the ultimate sculptors for this stuff. We do have the ability to modulate between the square and the sawtooth. And in between that, I think, is some sort of triangle as it morphs from square to sawtooth. And it's kind of a low range of waveform modulation that you can do. But when you do the hard sync and then do that, then you can get some really cool territory. But I do think it's best to actually do the hard sync and then not do the waveform modulation and do the pitch modulation in that particular format. And that's where you're going to get the most experimental sounds, as well as modulating the effects, because the effects can be modulated too. So pretty cool. I'm pleased with the modules, and I hope that you enjoyed this kind of exploration of this idea of incorporating desktop units that are, advertised mostly as desktop units. I'm not seeing many people explore it in the Eurorack format, at least on YouTube when I was looking for it. This is what it's like to do that. So I hope this was helpful, and you kind of identifying, would you want to use modules like this that are analog, fully analog, and at a pretty good price point in your Eurorack system, as opposed to using them as these desktop, more toyish experience. And at least in my opinion, I think that they excel as Eurorack modules versus the desktop units, because it requires so much patching for you to do that. And that's just my personal opinion on the matter. But there's some really cool big fat sounds I was able to get from here. And that's what we were doing this Saturday. I wanted to explore that, see what you thought. There's no affiliate links. There's no sponsorship stuff happening here. Do whatever you want with this information. Do you want to incorporate this into your rack? Yeah, maybe. It's already in mine, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Maybe I will turn this into a full-on techno skiff and keep them in the rack and do it this way. Or put them into one of my other millions of Eurorack systems that I have in my studio, which is just crazy how many cases that I've bought in over time. But right now in the main rack, which is this 9U, they're sounding pretty good and they're pretty fun. Especially nice to use it paired with envelope or a sequencer. The hand exploration is also really dope, but I still think I would want to have another synth in here to at least do, some like classic sounding bass lines. But honestly, it didn't need it. I could have just leaned heavily on my drums. We were doing really minimal drums with a kick snare hat or a kick clap hat experience over in the dig attack. Kept it really simple and clean so we could hear these modules in particular. But I think if I leaned into the drums, added like a delay or a reverb onto my kick and had sidechain that, get that huge techno rumble going on paired with these drones, I think that's all you would need to play a show. Really simple. You could actually just use these two with your dig attack or another drum machine that lets you bring audio in and sidechain it. TR-1000 would be a good option to actually pair these with. And I'd keep them in Eurorack format because I think it's where you get the most value out of them. But I think that'd be a really good combo because you can also run that into the TR-1000 and sidechain them on the kick from there. And I think the sidechain with these is really nice because I think the best use case for them is in a techno format or a droney noise experience. But I think you can anything that can do drone and noise works well in techno. So again, my name's Matthew, aka EZBOT. If you like these kind of streams, I'm do this every Tuesday, and sometimes I do this Friday or Saturday, which is kind of today's surprise. Saturday, we're checking out the Stylophone. Affordable analog Eurorack modules? Check. Yes, that is exactly what they are. They do work out in this format very well in my experience. If you want to see more stuff like this, you can go ahead and say so in the comments. What do you think about this? Could you please leave a comment and tell me, what do you think about these modules? What do you think about them in Eurorack format? Would you prefer them on the desktop, or would you prefer them in Eurorack like I do? Do you think they're affordable Eurorack? I personally do. I think that was kind of like my hypothesis that I think I proved in this video. Let me know in the comment section down below if you do. If you want to support this channel, you can keep coming back and hanging out. You can also visit patreon.com/EZBOT. There's all sorts of cool rewards there, but it also keeps this channel going. And that's going to be it for me. We'll do another stream on Tuesday where we're going to be looking at the WMD drum modules and jamming on those, incorporating them with Electron gear, maybe with some other gear, but probably incorporating them with Electron gear, or maybe doing an all-in-one Eurorack case setup. That's this Tuesday. Look forward to seeing you again there. I'll catch you all later.